Today we're going to talk about the curriculum theories. The first one is the technical theory. The technical theory considers the curriculum as a context characterized by social needs and objectives, discovering the needs and developing programs with the aim of achieving the purposes and objectives of the society, which are commonly imposed by a political or bureaucratic group and sometimes decided by a technology of evaluation of needs. The strategies and the criteria during the curricular process are related to the society and the culture in an individual way. The curriculum is understood as a sequential plan of procedures, training, instruction that explain the learning objectives and the strategies that the teacher must follow to get good results. The student is considered as an agent of their own learning, which processes information and acquires knowledge and attitudes of reconstruction and differentiation. And the teacher is considered a technical professional equipped with the skills and abilities to be an effective teacher. This theory understands education as the main way to make the students contribute with the advance of the society. That's why it must to answer the needs that the society has and its purposes and goals. The school is an important agent, but the most important is what is established by the leading forces, and the school is just a way to maintain what is established. Here is an example from the national curriculum. This example is related to the technical theory because it's focused on the development of the students to contribute to the society. Here we have an example from ELT approach. This is about the cognitive approach because it emphasizes the understanding of basic skills of the language learning.
Now we have the critical pedagogy theory. The critical pedagogy theory is a philosophy of education that views teaching as a political act. This philosophy focuses on issues of inequality such as social class, race, or gender. This theory claims the idea that students can, in their own ways, transform the world into a better place. Critical pedagogy was influenced by the works of Pablo Freire. He endorsed students' ability to think critically about their education situation. This way of thinking allows them to recognize connection between their individual problems and experiences and the social context in which they enter. This theory understands education as producing not only knowledge but also political subjects and suggests that the curriculum mustn't be treated as a sacred text. It could be reread and reformulated in many different ways, depending on the learners. So it is the student-centered theory of education, which purpose is that students could be able to develop critical thinking and reasoning. This theory approaches the language teaching, focusing on the relationship between language learning and social change. In the case of language learning, language is not only a means of expression or communication. It is a practice that constructs and is constructed by the ways language learners understand themselves, the social surroundings, the stories, and the possibility for the future in a new country, for example.
Here we have an example from the national curriculum. It is related to the critical pedagogy because it allows the students to develop critical thinking about certain situations. Now, we have an example from the ELT curriculum. This example makes the students develop abilities such as argumentation, analysis, and reasoning through the communicative approach.
Now we have the postmodern theory. The postmodern theory consists on a change from the current modern perspective of education. This theory emphasizes that each student is unique and allows them to create their own environment in which they learn. Now we are going to mention some differences between the previous modern methods and now the postmodern method of learning. So we have the modern method where teachers are administrative agents who set rules and regulations. Structure and curriculum and strongly supported by the teachers, and students are held to the same standard no matter what culture or background they belong to. And now, postmodern method. Teachers work as a co-constructor of instruction with the students, emphasize creativity and diverse learning environments, allow students from different backgrounds and cultures to express themselves. So the theory understands education as a facilitator to students to develop autonomy while they're learning. The teacher facilitates the content instead of just teaching. So the student can learn and express themselves completely free, without rules imposed. It allows students to develop creativity and encourages them different ways of thinking about a same concept. So it is a student-centered method that contains a communicative approach because it facilitates the students to communicate with each other and share the different ways of thinking. In this theory, the language learning has been changing in a way that second language speakers are no longer afraid of their errors in pronunciation, for example. For many years, the understanding of language has been changing with the purpose of finding the best or the most suitable method for teaching a second language. So now we have some of the history of the methods that were applied to a second language teaching. First, we have the classical method that then became known as the grammar translation method, the series method, and then the Dari method, also known as naturalistic, and the audiolingual method.
Now we have an example from the national curriculum. This can be related with this theory because it talks about the autonomy of the student and the freedom to develop interests and skills, but also the capacity to assume responsibilities. Now we have an example from the ELT approach. This can be related with this theory because it talks about the autonomy of the student that must have in the process of learning a second language.
And here we have some of the reference that we use for doing this work. Thank you.